Waheshimiwa wa Kenya wenzangu, leo ni siku kubwa sana kwa sababu leo ndio finance bill inaenda kusikizwa. Na hii finance bill imemake historia ama imemake history kwamba Wakenya wanaweza amka na waongee kwa sauti moja, waseme ile kitu hawataki na ile kitu wanataka. Sijui kama ni management ya social media round hii imefanyika vizuri na politician, na sijui kama ni Wakenya wameamka kutoka kwa ile usingizi tunakuaga, that tumeshikana all of a sudden na tumesoma finance bill. Actually sijui ni wangapi wamesoma na ni wangapi hawajasoma. Wengi wetu najua tunategemea yale mambo wengine wanasema, wenye inasemekana kwamba wamesoma. Hatujui nini tunaongea kuhusu, lakini based on vile hao watu wenye wamesoma wanasema, hii finance bill si mzuri. Na kwa hivyo tumekuja pamoja na tumeamua kwamba hii finance bill inafaa kuanguka. Na leo bunge inaenda kudiscuss kuhusu hii finance bill, na Wakenya pia wameamua wakiongozwa na activists, the usual activists akina Boniface Mwangi, that kutakuwa na mkutano ya Wakenya ambao wataenda karibu na bunge wakingoja matokeo ya ile conversation ama ile discussion ama ile motion itakuwa kwa bunge leo kuhusiana na finance bill. Sikatai hii finance bill ni mbaya, na nakubaliana na Wakenya ambao wanasema reject the finance bill, lakini na si kwamba nasema hii finance bill inafaa kupita ama inafaa kuanguka. Lakini ukweli ambao lazima Wakenya tumeze ni kwamba lazima finance bill, lazima eventually tutakuwa na finance bill. Kwa sababu number one, serikali lazima ipatiwe pesa za kurun mambo yake ama ya kufanya mambo yake, na hiyo pesa huwa inapitishwa kila mwaka kupitisha hii document ama kupitia hii document ambayo tunaita finance bill. Wakati itakuwa sheria, ndio serikali officially itakuwa imepewa ruhusa na Wakenya kwamba mnaweza tumia zile pesa ambazo zimewekwa kwa budget. Nao Wakenya wanakuwa prepared kupatia serikali hizo pesa through two means, either through taxation or through loans. Sana sana inakuanga ni taxation, kwa sababu hata serikali ikichukua loan lazima itarudi ilipe hiyo loan, na hiyo loan italipwa na taxation. So eventually lazima tutakuwa na finance bill. Now nikiangalia yale mambo ambayo yanafanya tu complain kwa hiyo finance bill, ni mambo ya kina mkate, mambo ya kina magari, mambo ya kina vitu ndogo ndogo ambayo mimi sipati. Okay, kuna shida kubwa sana ya serikali kutax hizo vitu kwa sababu the cost of living itaenda juu. But the problem I'm having, and forgive me for being these probably very short-sighted when it comes to politics, the problem that I'm finding in this is that we are fighting the wrong battle. We are complaining about the wrong thing. Kwa sababu tuna complain ati mkate itatoka kutoka shilingi 60 bob yenye inatoka saa hii, ambayo already ni pesa ambayo imeongezeka ikilinganishwa na wakati President William Ruto alikuwa anaingia, that hiyo mkate inakuwa double, inaweza kuwa doubled na tuinunue more than 100 shillings. Okay, tuna complain kwamba magari tumeshatoa tax na serikali inataka kututax tena. What if I tell you that the reason why we are complaining is because we don't have money? That if you had that money, if there was ease of you getting the money za kununua mkate, haungekuwa una complain. What if I told you that there's no, okay, you would not find any difference, you as a normal Kenyan, as an ordinary Kenyan who normally uses bread every morning, you would not be complaining if you had ease of getting that 100 shillings za kununua hiyo mkate, even if mkate ingekuwa 1000. Kama Mkenya ungekuwa na urahisi wa kupata pesa za kununua hiyo mkate, would you believe me if I tell you haunge complain? I like using this example kwa sababu ndio naonanga ikiwa rahisi kueleweka na Wakenya ama na watu wengi ambao maybe hawezi elewa zile complex terms. In my village in Elbagon, where we are led by the current chairman of the finance committee mwenye anafanya mcomplain sana, an MP that I still until today wonder how he became a president, a member of parliament for my constituency, because first of all he doesn't know his work, second of all he doesn't understand his citizens, because Elbagon and Molo constituency is the Currently, I can rate it as the poorest constituency in town, yet he is the finance committee chairman, na Molo hakuna kitu wa tunapata. Hata ukiangalia zile bursaries tunapewa, ukiangalia barabara za kwetu, ukiangalia connectivity ya stima kwetu, it is the poorest, and we have the poorest MP that we have ever had in history. But what I'm trying to say is that, niachane na MP wetu sasa, niongelee ile kitu nilikuwa nataka kusema. Ukienda Elbagon in an ordinary hotel selling ordinary food to an ordinary mwananchi, 1 cup of tea inakuanga ni shilingi 100. Ukitoka Elbagon ufike Nakuru ama uende Nairobi and get to a hotel of a class of a restaurant, utapata the same chai yenye imeundwa na maji na maziwa, sukari na majani, haiuzwe 10 bob kwa hiyo kikombe moja, inauzwa 100 shillings or even 150 shillings. Here is the difference. The people that the ordinary hotel in Elbagon, the people wenye ina attract ni watu ambao ni low class, ambao pesa yao hata mwenye hoteli ni wa hiyo class ya 20 shillings na hawawezi afford anything more than 20 shillings. Lakini ukifika ile hoteli yenye inauza chai 100 shillings, ina attract, hiyo hoteli kubwa ina attract a population of people ambao wamejiweza na wanaweza hiyo 100 kwao si pesa nyingi, hiyo ni pesa ya luxury. The same way chai ya 20 bob inatritiwa kama luxury ya peasant farmer or that ordinary mwananchi ambaye ako Elbagon, huyu mwenye anunua the same chai with the same qualifications of tea, of tea leaves, of water, maziwa na kupikwa, sasa huyu mwenye ananunua 100, klasi yake inamruhusu kuafford ile chai kwa sababu wako na pesa. That is because huyo mtu wako na pesa, and there is high probability that huyu mwenye ananunua the same chai at 20 bob ata complain kwamba chai ni expensive, lakini huyu mwenye anauziwa 100 anajiuliza, na huyu mtu mwenye anauza chai 100 anapata profit aje? Because yeye ako na urahisi wa kupata zile pesa. Now we as Kenyans tuna complain that mkate inaenda kupanda bei, na complain sijui magari itaenda kupanda bei, but in my opinion, or where I stand, is that we are having a completely different conversation from the one that we should be having. Because if there are people who should be on the forefront of complaining, ni wale hustlers, wale mama mbogas, wale bodaboda riders, wale vijana wa beba ambao walichagua hii serikali, ndio ama kwa sababu ya ile narrative tuliuziwa ya bottom up economic model, the model that promised that itaweka pesa kwa mfuko ya mwananchi. Taxes zimekuwa hapo na zimekuwa zikiongezeka progressively. Ukilinganisha zile taxes zilikuwa wakati wa Kenyatta, Moi akikuja aliongeza taxes kidogo kwa sababu alikuwa na serve a bigger government and a bigger population. Moi akitoka aliacha Kibaki naye akafanya kazi yake, akaongeza taxes to his levels. Uhuru naye akakuja akatengeneza finance bills zake, akaongeza taxes. Ruto naye amekuja, lazima aongeze taxes zake. So that is something that we have been used to. Our parents who never questioned the government and who never questioned the intentions of the government. Our parents who were made to believe that the government is made of immortals who never die and should not even, they do not produce blood once they are cut. The people who believed, I remember when we were young, mimi nikiwa mdogo nilipata Moi akiwa president, and they used to ask me, Kim, what do you want to be? And I said I wanted to be Moi, because I never believed that Moi can get sick. I never believed that Moi can die. I never believed that Moi can have an accident. That is what we were fed. Now our parents never questioned their government the way we are questioning it. We are questioning this government as the current generation. Probably it's because they were not exposed, they were not educated, or secondly, they did not have social media, or thirdly, they did not have access to information about what the government was planning for them. So, but that doesn't mean that the taxes hazikuwa zinaongezwa, zilikuwa zinaongezwa. na hata sasa zinaongezwa, na yule president atakuja bado ataongeza. So what should we be complaining about as the current generation questioning the current government? I think we should be identifying the real problem that is making us not to afford the things that we are complaining that if they go up, we will not be able to afford. What I mean is, now that we are complaining about bread going from 60 shillings to 100 shillings, I'm saying we should not be complaining that the bread is being increased. The price of bread is being increased at that rate. The real problem that we should be complaining about is that which is making us not to afford that bread at that 100 shillings. For example, youth of my age ambao mumesoma, mmeshamaliza shule, serikali iliwaforce musome, na kama hamungesoma mamako angepatikana kwamba uko nyumbani na hauendi shule, angekamatwa awekwe ndani. So the government forced your parents to educate you or to take you to school. Now you are out of school, but the government is not arresting your mom and it's not arresting you for lacking a job. The question we should be asking the government is, where are the jobs? The question that we should be asking President William Ruto. Now we are still the hustlers that elected you to power. We are still the mamambogas that elected you to power, and we had a dream, we had a vision, we had the bottom-up economic model that we expected that you would implement once you get to power. Where are the jobs? Where is the economic model that we fought for? Where is everything? Where are the jobs? Where is the money? And because I don't want to spend a lot of time discussing about this topic, I want to give you an example of something that maybe I think can help us. In my opinion on how I have seen governments running, we have three major problems. Number one is that those who have been educated have not found jobs. Not because jobs are not there, not because jobs could not be made or they could not be provided for, but because the people who are supposed to provide jobs have been overtaken by the government. The government is competing with those people who would be employing you. Somebody is asking how, and this is my answer, that the main source of employment for the Kenyan youth or for you who got educated is either the Kenyan government or the private sector. The Kenyan government has employed the people that it's supposed to have employed. In fact, it has employed too much that the wage bill is too big that Kenyans are complaining that these taxes zenye tunataksiwa ndio serikali iongeze pesa, tunataksiwa ndio iweze at least kulipa ile wage bill yenye iko sahihi kwa wale watu ambao wameajiriwa na serikali. So it's evident, and maybe probably wengi wetu tukiulizwa tunaweza sema kufikia mahali serikali imeemploy watu haifai kuexpand further. So where should you be running from? If you don't get a job in public sector, you're supposed to get a job in private sector. But there's a problem in the private sector. The government is still competing with the private sector. How? I'll give you one example, not many. For example, today President William Ruto amesikika ama amekuwa very vocal in marketing the affordable housing projects. Now, I remember when the finance bill ya 2023 ilikuja ili introduce the housing levy, because every employed Kenyan anakatwa the housing levy. I remember that time tuli complain sana kuhusu the housing levy, and the president was saying that he is doing that so that he can provide jobs for the youth. But the question we should be asking ourselves is that out of the available households zenye tuko nazo Kenya, 90% of those people ni ambao wamejijengea, sio watu ambao wamejengewa na serikali. Na kama sio kujijengea out of your own private arrangement, wewe ni mtu ambaye ulitafuta pesa ukanunua nyumba from a real estate from the stakeholders wa real estate. When the government starts building houses and selling to Kenyans those houses, I find it that the government is competing with those real estate companies and those citizens who have been building houses. The government is acquiring free land that is owned by the public. It is making tax-free and not taxing at all the raw materials zenye inatumia kujenga affordable housing. Lakini yule mwenye ako kwa real estate ananunua shamba na analipia taxes zile vitu zote anatumia kujenga, which makes the government to have an upper hand when they are selling houses. Between the government and the private real estate stakeholders, kuna kuwa na competition yenye inapiga away na inarusha nje kampuni za real estate. Now if you think the problem is only in the real estate, and eventually kumalizia hiyo, kwa sababu siwezi taka nikuache ukiwa umehang hii real estate, wale watu ambao wangeajiriwa kufanya kazi kwa hizi kampuni za real estate wote wanaondolewa, kwa sababu serikali ikikompete na hizi kampuni si ati ina compete na wenye kampuni, ina compete na wenye wameajiriwa kwa hizo kampuni. So it means wote wanaondolewa, wenye wako kwa serikali ama zile nyumba zenye zinajengwa na serikali ndio tu peke yake tunaweza pata employment. I don't know whether that sinks well in your mind, but I want also to tell you that even simple things or easy things zenye munaona kama ni rahisi, kama free ile fertilizer ya serikali yenye inauza at 35, hiyo ya 3500 sijui ni 2500 yenye inafikia farmers at cheap rate, bado kuna watu wako kwa agrovet na wako kwa maduka za kuuza farm inputs ambao wako na fertilizers zenye hazijaletwa na serikali. We have people who produce fertilizers in Kenya or who import fertilizers in Kenya, but the government imports the fertilizer to sell it cheaply to Kenyans, hence competing with these people, then inawatupa nje, which means there is part of the economy that is being affected. Okay? So that is a problem number one that I think Kenyans need to rise up and try to see the government as what it should be. At one time, Mheshimiwa Ndende Nyoro, who is the current budget and appropriation committee chairman, alisema kwamba it is not the work of the government to do business. The work of the government is supposed to be regulating and enabling business environment. And there is no way the government can be a regulator and at the same time the government ikuwe ndio bado fanya biashara ama ina compete na the same people that it is regulating. So we need to rise up and tell the government, stop competing with the citizen, regulate the business environment, and the citizens will adjust themselves and they will find a way themselves. Once the government becomes what it is, the citizen and the economy will be what it is supposed to be. Problem number two, the issue of borrowing. Hizi vitu zenye tunasema serikali iko na loans mingi sana. When we talk about borrowing, huwa tunafocus sana na zile pesa serikali inaomba kutoka nje ya nchi. For example, pesa ambazo tumeomba from the IMF, from the World Bank, from China, from America, from Europe. Hizo pesa ndo tunafocus nazo sana. But I think there is another loan that the government is taking that Kenyans are not very keen in addressing. Niliona at some time, a while back, when I brought this conversation and Kenyans did not even focus and they did not even notice that I was the first person to bring this topic, it was hijacked by senior politicians and senior people like Jimmy Wanjigi. It was hijacked by senior people like the senator Okia Omtata, na wakajaribu kuiendesha, sijui walichokea wapi on the way. I had a very big problem with domestic borrowing because, again, using the example of a Kenyan youth, once umesoma na umemaliza degree yako, umemaliza shule, sasa umegraduate, umeenda nyumbani na umekosa job, ideally you are supposed to, okay, let me remove that aspect kwanza ya umekosa job. Ukishasoma, ukishapata ile paper, That paper is supposed to do a job. It is supposed to work for you. That paper inafaa ikufanyie kazi, either upate job mahali, either in private or in public sector, uajiriwe, then eventually hiyo karatasi ikupatie pesa, upate return for the education that you received. If you do not get a job, then the skill yenye ulipata ukiwa shule inafaa ikusaidie kufanya kitu. Now, because you have been a student, and most of us, over 90% of those who go to universities ama who get these skills zenye huwa tunaenda kupata shule, tumetoka kwa familia ambazo hazijaziweza, so we cannot say that we can put up self-employment that we can rely for ourselves. So, and because most of our families cannot be able to afford, we are supposed to get a loan or to get the money from somewhere else, then start a business. Then as the business runs, as the business succeeds, you proceed to pay the loans. Okay? During the times of Kibaki, I know those who have lived enough until now, ama wenye wameishi kidogo, wenye waliona uongozi wa Kibaki, we would see many banks, akina KCB, akina Equity, akina nini, ungeenda tu mahali upate kama ni estate. Equity Bank imetengeneza kakibanda mahali, nayo KCB imetengeneza kakibanda mahali, Family Bank imetengeneza kakibanda mahali, and these banks were competing on who will sell many loans to many Kenyans. In fact, they were competing on customers. Walikuwa wanabembeleza watu ndio wapatie loan. Very many ideas have been funded by these banks. Ideas that have come from students who have gone to school, they have skills, they have ideas, but they don't have money to implement the ideas. They do not have formal employments where they can go and express their ideas so that they can get funding. Immediately after Kibaki ametoka, we got back to domestic borrowing, and all of a sudden I cannot see banks giving out loans. Kama si akina Easy Banking, kama si KCB M-Pesa, kama si Fuliza, kama si M-Shwari, kama si, I do not see banks giving any tangible loans, any important loans to citizens, ama wakistruggle kupeana loans. Why? Because all the money that the banks have for lending, all the monies that the banks are having in their cabinets in banks is being taken by the government. The money that is supposed to be lent to the struggling businesses, the money that is supposed to be lent to the students who have graduated, have ideas, but they do not have a way to implement those ideas, zote zinaombwa na serikali so that the government can pay off the loans zenye tumeomba kutoka nje, so that the government can pay off the bonds zenye ilikuwa imeomba from previously, and that money is not being felt in the economy. Okay? That is the same money that you are supposed to go to the bank, uende uambie bank as a graduate of say engineering, that I have this project that I think if I make this kind of engineering work, it will bring business to me and it will employ some Kenyans. At the same time, wewe ukienda kuomba hiyo loan, unapatana pale kuna a representative of the government who is President William Ruto's representative, and a representative of the current bank of the current government, naye anaomba loan ndio alipe IMF, ndio alipe China kwa sababu ya barabara ilijenga, ya barabara ambayo itusaidii, ndio alipe watu wengine, ndio alipe malone, na hii government inapatia hiyo bank guarantee that hata ikikosa kitu ya kulipa ama ikisemekana kwamba imepotea, haina avenues zingine za kupata pesa, itatax wewe mwenye una graduate ama wewe mwenye ulikuwa umeenda kuomba loan na yeye. Even if you are a bank, you feel more secure lending your money to the bank or to the government than to an individual, because this individual has so many risks. You are so risky that you can even die anytime, and that money can be lost anytime. So the banks zina opt kupatia Ruto pesa ama zina opt kupatia serikali pesa, wewe unapotelea nje. I think it's high time for Kenyans to rise up and realize that the biggest problem is not the price of bread. The biggest problem with the Kenyan economy is not the price of unga. The biggest problem is how easy it is for you as a Kenyan to get the money to buy unga at that particular price. A Kenyan of the right mind is not supposed to be complaining about the price of unga. A Kenyan with the right mindset, the right economic mindset, anafaa kuwa ana complain about why am I not affording that unga. Sio ku complain ati unga ishuke. You should be working hard and you should be trying to identify the loopholes in your lifestyle. Why are you not able to afford that unga at that particular price? And that is what we are supposed to be looking at. I said 3 problems. The last problem is capital flight. You see, pesa zinaibiwa kila siku, na hii sitasisitiza sana. Nyinyi wote mnajua kwamba pesa zinaibiwa kila siku, na hao politicians wenye wako in charge of our money wanaficha pesa kila siku. We were told by President Uhuru Kenyatta, and Ruto has not spoken to say that this has been reversed or this has stopped, that every day Kenya is losing 2 billion. Now, in a right economy or in a place where pesa zinaibiwa alafu zinaenda at the right pocket or to the right place, if 2 billions are being stolen every day, then there should be an impact of every day, an economic impact of 2 billion every day in the economy. I don't know whether you've ever imagined how many companies we would be having if every politician was stealing money alafu anaeka kampuni. Say politician wa kwenu, if you come from my place in Nakuru, politicians, my MP wa Molo aibe 2 billion leo, kesho MP wa Njoro aibe 2 billion, MP wa Nakuru aibe 2 billion, MP wa Kericho aibe 2 billion, MP wa, yani kila MP in Nakuru County aibe 2 billion kila MP kwa siku yake. If that money is invested in the right place, it should be invested in my county or in my country, which means if we all invest that 2 billion in Kenya or in Nakuru County, Elbagon would be having a company owned by my member of parliament worth 2 billion. And a company worth 2 billion, I think, is enough to employ everybody in Elbagon ward. I think a company worth 2 billion in Njoro is worth employing everybody, every unemployed youth in Njoro constituency. A company worth 2 billion for Nakuru town is a company enough to employ of almost everybody. And so if these members of parliament are 299 and we have 365 days in a year, which means every year over 600 billion is being stolen, which means that if it has been invested in our country and if the money is still in our economy, we should be having a replication, we should be having the same impact of 2 billion every day in this great economy of Kenya, and therefore we should be having so many new companies and so much money being pumped into the government, because the same money yenye huwa tunachukua in form of bonds and lending money to the government so that it can implement government projects is the same money they are stealing, because it has been taken from one end na imeenda ikaibiwa. Hiyo pesa kama inarudi to the same economy, then we should be having so many businesses, so many companies being started and being run around. And because we are not seeing that money, na sijui ni wangapi wameona kwa constituency zao ama kwa nchi yao, because we are not seeing that money, it only means one thing, that money is not within the Kenyan economy. It has flowed out of the Kenyan economy, and therefore it is away from the Kenyan economy. It doesn't matter whether wameweka chini ya kitanda ama wamechimbia shimo ama wamechukua hizo pesa wakaenda wakapeleka kwa nchi za nje. wakaenda wakanunua wakaeka kwa Pandora boxes, wakaenda wakanunua makampuni Uganda. The money that was supposed to provide employment, the money that was supposed to be running the Kenyan economy is no longer within the Kenyan economy, and therefore as an economy we are not in control of that money. Imeinvestiwa mahali kwingine. That's why you are so very much unemployed. That's why even though the government is increasing the cost of everything, even though the taxes zimeongezewa sana na serikali, watu still, political analysts, economic analysts, economists wanauliza, now that the government has increased all these taxes, why are we not seeing the implications of these taxes on the government revenue? Why are we not seeing the implication of these taxes on government services? It's because the government is not in control of the money. It's because the government is not in control of the Kenyan economy. The money has already flied out. And this is the thing that Kenyans, we need to wake up and start questioning. I don't want to go beyond that. Maybe we shall interact in future conversations. My name is Kim Explains. If you want to find my conversation, you can come to YouTube, search for Kim Explains, and you will see all these videos doing all these analysis. Najua nimekuchosha na mambo mingi, but at least I think I have, or I just hope you have learned something. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe.
Remember to subscribe, like, share and leave a comment. That was Kim Explains. Thanks for watching.